I think we can go live now.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joseph Ogunleye. I sincerely want to welcome you all to this webinar. I also want to appreciate you all for finding out time to attend this Savannah Business School Business Leaders Arena Webinar 2.0 series with the theme how to create a successful and sustainable business. This webinar is put together by Savannah Business School as a means of giving back to the society at large by providing in-depth and practical solutions to some of the challenges faced by businesses and enhancing and equipping business leaders in creating successful and sustainable businesses that will impact the economy positively. This webinar promises to be insightful. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so honored to introduce the moderator of today's webinar. Is no other person but Dr. Ahmed Tunde Popola, FCA. Dr. Tunde Popola is a Nigerian banker, accountant, economist, entrepreneur, and business executive. He has been the managing director / CEO of CRC Credit Bureau Limited since its establishment in 2008. Prior to this, he was also the pioneer managing director of the Abuja Enterprise Agency, AEA 2005 to 2008. Before then, he was in the banking industry till 2005, where he rose to the position of Chief Finance Officer, CFO, and General Manager of a publicly listed bank. He sits on the board of several other companies and NGOs as non-executive director or chairman. Dr. Popola has passion for development issues and for developing small businesses. He holds several awards and recognitions, especially for his role in the entrepreneur industry, and also self-empowerment of the youth, including Nigeria's first Pan-African Prize for Entrepreneurial Teachers Award 2007. He received a special recognition and commendation of the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory for his innovation and promotion of youth enterprise in the FCT. As an intellectual, he is a speaker and presenter in conferences and special sessions and regular face in the print and electronic media, where he shares his views on the economy, finance, entrepreneurship, and leadership. He is the lead faculty in financial management at the Business School, Netherlands, Nigeria. He is also the one promoting Savannah Business School. Ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, can we make welcome Dr. Tunde Popola? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Thank you for the kind introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to sincerely welcome you. I'm the moderator for today's event, and it promises to be a very interesting session that will last the next 2 hours. Today, we'll be looking at, how to, start and run successful businesses. And I think he has given us the theme, how to create a successful and sustainable businesses. First of all, let me talk briefly about the Savannah Business School. It's a school, established just recently in Nigeria to focus on training and research in business management. It's starting with open enrollment and in-house executive education programs. And it has talented, tested, facilitators that drives its, that make up its faculty. Its learning methodology is a combination of action learning and case studies. And it's set up a number of open enrollment programs that we'll see later. The objectives of the school include the need, the intention to build the capacity of startups and growing businesses and business owners and managers, especially in finance, accounting, business management, and leadership, because we recognize these are areas that business owners, business managers struggle to make success of their businesses. It's also aimed to support and build capacity to start and grow a business. And then, of course, to train people as business leaders, transformational leaders who can change the the landscape of business management in Nigeria. The school is not into all common things. The school is focusing on only 3 areas: finance, entrepreneurship and business management, and leadership. And so virtually all the programs and courses that are run by the school will be within the realm of these three focus areas. And so it has designed some interesting open enrollment programs as a way to commence operations in finance. Basically, areas relating to basic finance for executives and managers, financial managers for entrepreneurs, financial modeling, then Microsoft Excel and Power Business Intelligence for professionals, and then of course finance and accounting. Everything relating to finance, the school is interested in it. And also has various programs for business management and how to start and run a business and grow businesses. So the 5 programs that it has now are basically on how to start a business, especially for middle-old people who are trying to start a business. Maybe they're likely to retire, or they are contemplating they are in paid employment and want to see how they can begin to put things together to start a business. And then, of course, there will be also how to manage small business, effective small business management. In other areas, we see that the areas that organizations or businesses have problems is in marketing and generating customers. And so it has some level of programs in marketing and customer management. And then, of course, in terms of business leadership, HR is a major issue, and then leadership of organizations is also major issues that the school intend to focus on. So these are just the 3 major areas, and these are the programs that are available at the moment. For the next 3 months, June, July, August, for the rest of the year, these are some of the programs that will be run, and the timetables are there. And so you can go to the website. You can also make inquiries by sending information or by making a call through the telephone numbers that have been, shared on the screen. Basically, you have basic financial modeling, you have effective small and medium enterprise management, starting and managing your business after retirement, and then financial management for entrepreneurs. And these are flagship programs of the school for now. And these are the contact details of how you can reach the school through Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, email, website, telephone numbers, anyone you choose to get to the school through. You have them on the board. So let me again welcome you this morning. We are going to have an interesting session today. Today, we are going to be talking about how to create a successful and sustainable business. Just on 3rd of April, 10th of April 2021, we had the school had the first webinar. And for those of you who are there and you are joining us today, I really want to say a big thank you. That webinar was on entrepreneurship, the pathway to personal and national prosperity. The conversation that day was around what's the role of entrepreneurship in nation building, what's the role of entrepreneurship as a means of of personal prosperity and as a means of growing the wealth of a nation. And we had very good session from these 2 speakers, Dr. Adams Olu Adebayo, who is the chairman of Nigeria Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, NASME Lagos chapter, and of course the erudite Professor Bushra Zakaria, a professor of entrepreneurship and e-business, and former director of Entrepreneurship Center at the Federal University of Technology, Minna. Those were the 2 speakers we had that time. We had a good session. We shared their presentations with all the people that attended that seminar. So today we are back. The essence of the Business Leaders Arena webinar is to begin to just have conversation around issues that can help to start and grow businesses generally. And so, having spoken last time in April around entrepreneurship generally and the role it plays in prosperity of the nation, in prosperity of individuals, today we want to go much more granular to specific on how to really create a successful and sustainable business. And you will agree with me that this is an interesting area in the country as we speak today. We know that starting a business is one of the most important decisions any adult can take, because it takes a lot of guts to say, I want to start a business, and to really go out there to start a business, because it comes with a lot of responsibility. There are so many things that are at play when you are trying to start a business. And so it must come with a lot of, conviction on the fact that this is the direction I want to go, this is what I want to do, and going into business is really good for me. So for those of you who have started your business, I want to congratulate you. I know it's a trying moment, even in Nigeria and at world at large, when it comes to managing businesses or starting businesses. But I want to assure you that you're in the right direction, and I think our speakers today will speak to that and try to convince you that you have not taken a wrong decision by going into entrepreneurship. And for those of you who are still thinking or preparing to start a business, it's not too late at any age. I want to assure you that it's not too late at any age. We know businesses that were started by people in their 20s, in their 30s. We know businesses that were started by those who just straight from school or didn't even go beyond secondary school. We also know businesses that were started by those who after retiring at age 60, and they are still able to make success out of such businesses. So wherever you are on the ladder, whether you've started or you're about to start, whether you're a young person, you're a middle-aged person, or you're an old person, going into a business, running your business, growing your business is not something that is too late. And I want to congratulate you for doing that. And I want to challenge those of us who are trying to come into business to do that. But we know, like I said, growing a business is it's really a very interesting thing. It can be very, very daunting. It can be very challenging. For those of us in the field of entrepreneurship who deal with businesses every day or deal with business people every day, we always liken it to the birth and growth of a man, of human beings. Every day, you see people trying to start a business, and every day you also see businesses dying. And so just like human beings, you see the birth and death of businesses. You also see the growth, you see the struggling of businesses, just the way you see a lot of people also struggling for survival in life. So it's always akin to the way human beings are. And at every level, right from the beginning to the end, you see businesses, starting and dying. There are businesses that they die at their infancy. As they are giving birth to, they refuse to take off. There are those that will do only 2 or 3 years, they take off, but they struggled and they're unable to survive during that struggling and they die. And there are those that will reach that age where they can thrive, they can grow, and they are growing. But then something happens along the line and they die. And there are those businesses that even have grown old, 50 years, 70 years, 100 years, and yet you still see some of those companies dying. And so it's a very interesting and challenging phases, when you see the phases through which businesses go through, like the phases through which normal human beings go through. I observe that the mortality rate of business is very high in our own environment. A lot of businesses die at their infancy, probably more than 80% of businesses die within the first 5 years of coming into existence. And I think research has proven that a lot of businesses die. So, and the question then is this: we used to have high mortality rate even in human beings before now. There are the days of Ogbanje, there are days of Abiku, there are days of not knowing that most of those things happen because of challenge to medical issues. So that in medicine has been able to address quite a lot of things that lead to this infant mortality rate, that leads to a lot of people dying at very young age as they are born. So we can do the same thing, and people have done research to do the same thing for businesses. We can reduce the level of infancy, death of businesses at very young age. We can also reduce the death of businesses even when they grow old. We can also see that there are systems, there are things that can be put in place to make businesses to grow the normal way they should grow. In the same way, when you give birth to a child and the child didn't have enough or does not have enough, combination of good environment and good food, the nourishing is not good. You see that a malnourished person cannot really grow well. It's the same thing with a business. So these are some of the issues. These are challenges. These are things that we know happen in real life, and they also happen in businesses. We also know that every business is created to create wealth. In other words, people want to start something small, want to grow it to something big. And that means you must be making profit in the long run. If you are not making profit when the company starts, then when the company grows into few years, then of course you must really be ready to make profit. Otherwise, you will die. But then even in the literature, people have been asking, should a company just focus on profit because that's the only way to survive? That's the only thing that can guarantee its existence. Is this true? What are the other things that a company should focus on so that it can be there in the long run? Should a company try to make money at all costs, irrespective, just simply because that's the only way to remain? These are some of the conversations that are on in research and in literature of entrepreneurship. And I guess our speakers may be able to touch some of them as we speak today. So today, we are looking at a title. We are looking at a topic. How do we create a successful and sustainable business? And we are going to be looking at this from two perspectives. What leads to business successes? And then what leads to business failures? All of us, when we see businesses that are thriving, we admire them. We see Google, we see Twitter, we see Apple, we see Cadbury, we see Dangote. We are very happy with them. There are quite a lot of other small businesses that are running that we are very close to in our own locality, in our own environment. They may be run by our friends, they may be owned by communities or associations or shareholders that we know. We are always very happy to see them. So what are they doing right? What did they do right to set themselves up? And what are they doing right to ensure that they are growing and they are doing very well, fantastically well, even in the midst of the challenges and the environment where we find ourselves today? What does it take to create a viral, functioning, growing, profitable, and then sustainable businesses? Sustainable means to be there over time, to be there in the long term. What are those things we need to do? That's one part of the discussion we are going to be having today. The other part we are going to be having today is about failure of business. So what is it that makes businesses to fail? Are they so apparent? Are there, techniques to managing businesses or to managing a business in a way that it will survive all environment and at all seasons? So what normally will cause business failure? And how do you avoid the pitfalls, such pitfalls that cause business failure? Can we reduce the failure rate of businesses the same way infant mortality has been reduced in the human world? I've spoken about that. What are the tips? What are the secrets to that? Like I said, humanity has developed medicine so fascination when before a child is born, fascination when a child is born, some level of medicine to use and all of that. So what are those things that we have to go through to ensure that we have successful businesses that are born and they thrive the way they should thrive, they grow normally the way a business should grow, and they remain up there and they do not stagnate. So the question is, what do you try to avoid to give back to a business? What do you try to avoid to ensure that the business grow normally and does not stagnate? And then what do you do normally to what do you try to avoid to make sure that a business does not die at any time? So the conversation we are going to be having today is what it takes to set up a business that will thrive. What are the how? What are the steps? What are the actions? Practical ones that can make this to happen. And then the second issue is how not to go about setting up a business, or how not to go about running a business so that that business will not fail. What are the steps? What are those things? What are those steps? What are those actions? These are issues that we want to really be able to examine today. And so we have with us today two very exciting, interesting speakers I always admire. They have done so much in area of business development and business management in Nigeria. Looking at their names alone, I'm sure most of us who are here today are very familiar with them. Some of us have had series of contacts with them. Some of us have been hearing their names and the organizations that they've dealt with. And they are household names when it comes to business incubation and business management in Nigeria. There are no other paid persons than Mrs. Adenike Adeyemi of Faith Foundation and Mr. Neil Yusuf of Ferraki Partners. They will be the one to take us through today. My job is just to moderate the session and also listen to them and also learn from them some of those things that they do in this field of how to manage, how to grow, how to start, and how to grow a business. Now, so let's start with Mrs. Adenike Adeyemi. Mrs. Adenike Adeyemi is in the forefront of building capacity to start and grow a business in Nigeria. She's currently the CEO, Executive Director, Chief Executive of Faith Foundation. I mean, all of us, we know Faith Foundation. We are familiar with Faith Foundation. She has been in Faith Foundation since 2015. She has been in the forefront of galvanizing all the actions, the activities that are happening in Faith Foundation since 2015. Faith Foundation, as we speak today, has over 6,000 alumni members. She has led the organization to become the thought leader in research and policy analysis on Nigeria's micro and small businesses, and in fact, the entrepreneurship ecosystem. She has been engaged in so many other things. She's made sure that the brand Faith has become synonymous with business management, with entrepreneurship in Nigeria. And there's no other NGO that is in this realm that you can really compare with Faith Foundation. And she's done quite a lot of job in that regard. She's raised over $4 million to date through partnership. She has been involved in launching programs such as Aspiring Entrepreneurs, Digital MSME Hub.org, Alumni Hub, Sky's the Limit. And then recently they launched what we call Journeys in Entrepreneurship podcast and video series. And I've been following that. I'm also a friend of Faith Foundation. And I really want to thank Nika for the wonderful job she's doing. Before that, she was in KPMG, where she was manager public, rose to become manager public and development sector services. She was a pioneer ED of Nigerian Leadership Initiative, and she was also learning support program manager at New Jersey Educational Opportunity Program. She started her career 19 years ago with the West African NGO Network. So you can see that Nika has a passion for NGO, for business incubation, for business development, for developing capacity of people. And she's taking that as her own, focus in the last 20 years. She is not just running Faith Foundation. She sits on the board of several companies, organizations, including the Youth Business International. She's a council member of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. She's on the board of PDT, Bitforce Communications, Oxford Tutorial College Foundation, and she's on the advisory board of Budget, She's the lead facilitator of NESG MSME Community of Practice. And I know that even yesterday, I think she had a radio program on MSME with the NESG on this particular role. She had her education at the University of Ibadan, where she had her first degree, and then she went on to the Stellon Hall University in 2005 to obtain her master's in diplomacy and international relations. Mrs. Adeyemi, we welcome you. I want to thank you for obliging us to be with us this morning. The next person is no other person than our own Niyi Yusuf, simply called Niyi Yusuf. It's Olani Yusuf, but simply it's Alhaji Niyi Yusuf, but he prefers to be called simply called Niyi Yusuf. It's also a household name when it comes to issue of business, especially business consulting and transformational, processes in businesses in Nigeria. I don't know how he put so many caps on his head, and I don't know how he does it. But you could see from his 29 years of experience that he's done so much for this country. He's done so much in the area of consulting and in the area of in so many other areas. In the financial services industry, he has been involved in the evolution of so many critical financial infrastructure that we see, powering the payment system and the credit system in Nigeria. So he was part of those that, gave birth to InterSwitch, which is a payment processor and transaction switching platform, an independent ATM deployer, which he also participated in. CRC Credit Bureau and the CEO. He was a midwife of CRC Credit Bureau, unique tax ID number, and cashless Lagos initiative. There are 3 data center sources, so many initiatives. You always find me there. Apart from that, what he does for a living is the fact that he's a consultant. He's an advisor to C-suite, businesses and individuals, both in government and in the private sector. So you see him at that top level, advising business leaders and government leaders on especially IT initiatives and strategic change in their organization. Niyi is currently the managing partner and the lead for the social sector practice in Beraki Partners, an organization he helps to really establish when he steps down and when Accenture left Nigeria in 2019. Before then, he was actually the managing director of Accenture for 9 years, from 2010 to 2019. He started his career in Atwanda since before he joined Accenture, where he rose to become the managing partner. Niyi, I don't know how he does it, like I told you, beyond his work, which in itself is very tasky and very involving. He is in so many places, he's doing so many things. In the educational sector, he's a member of council of Corona Schools Trust. He's the chairman of Corona Secondary School. He's a member of trustees of Fante University, and I know he was very instrumental in formulating strategy that led to Fante University, the university owned by NASFAT. He is the national president of NASFAT that has over 360 locations all over the world. He is the vice chairman, vice chairman of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, NESG. He's a facilitator in so many areas, and he is a mentor to quite a lot of young people, especially those in the IT world. He's also an expert in residence at the Lagos Business School, and he has passion, even in Faith Foundation. He's also on the governance committee, and he's been part of Faith Foundation also for a long time. He is a fellow of the African Leadership Initiative West Africa, and is a member of the Aspen Global Leadership. These are quite quality leadership initiatives and organizations in the world. He is also one person that Nigerian that know. I don't know many of them that has climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. For somebody to say, I'm leaving Nigeria, I'm going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, that person must have the grit. He must be a risk taker, and he also must have some very strong leadership, characteristics. Niyi, attended the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, where he obtained a degree in computer science and economics. And then he holds a graduate diploma, graduate diploma in business administration from the University of Wales. He has done quite a lot of certification programs in project management, COVID, IT, governance, business continuity, solution planning, solution delivery, IT service, name it, he's been there. So you can see that we have given today, we are blessed to have these two distinguished Nigerians with us to help us to deal with this topic that we are here to deal with today, which is on how to create a successful and sustainable business. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to, on your behalf, thank the two of them for their readiness to be with us today and for their readiness to do justice to these two topics. So this is the way it's going to go. The first speaker will be Mrs. Adenike Adeyemi. She will have about 25 minutes to talk to us on how a business is to be started and run. And then we'll then have Niyi as the second speaker later. Meanwhile, as they are speaking, you can be putting your comment in the chat, your questions in the chat, because we're going to take all the questions at the end of the two presentations. And I hope that you stay all through. We will share the presentation slide of both of them, so you don't need to copy verbatim. We're all going to share the recording of this webinar, because now, even as we speak, it's trending on Facebook and other social media. So welcome once again, while I give the floor to Mrs. Adenike Adeyemi, the ED CEO of Faith Foundation. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Dr. Popola, for that very warm welcome. Good morning, everyone that is joining us from different parts of the country, and I'm sure even from the world. I'm honored and delighted to be a speaker at today's Savannah Business School session. I have to say that when somebody who is a mentor of a lot of our favorite entrepreneurs and even your own personal mentor invites you to a program, it's an honor that you don't take very lightly. So thank you very much. It is an honor, and I'm happy to share this. I'm also happy to share today's session with another of our mentors, and both of you have been very strong friends of Faith Foundation, I'm sure since inception, through your leadership, through your sessions, through your facilitation, both yourselves and Mr. Yusuf. You've built a whole army of entrepreneurs who are leaders. And I want to first of all start my presentation by saying thank you for exemplifying entrepreneurial leadership, exemplifying what it is to build businesses in this challenging environment, but also still give your time to mentor, to train, to support entrepreneurs in Faith Foundation and even across different spaces, and then also even setting up this platform. So thank you very much. Today, I have been asked to speak around how to build a thriving business. And over the next 20 to 25 minutes, I'm going to share my thoughts on this. So I'm sharing my screen now. And as Dr. Popola has said, all this presentation will be shared with us at the end of the program. In talking about building a thriving business, there are 4 areas that I'm going to focus my presentation today on. First is, how do you identify business opportunities? Because I know that on this call today, we have those who are in businesses, but who may even be looking to expand or even to go into different business areas or business lines that are beyond what they currently do. We also have those who may be experienced, maybe in the corporate sector, have been in employment for a while, and then are looking to explore business opportunities, or even have a business idea, but they're not sure how to roll about. So for those people and for everybody else, I'm going to also talk about steps to starting a business. I will then round up with talking about fundamental and tips for building a thriving business, and considerations for a tough environment like Nigeria in that. And honestly, the way I've based my conversations today is from my experience running Faith Foundation and also working and supporting with a lot of entrepreneurs across different sectors, across different parts of Nigeria, in Nigeria. So I'm going to be everything I'm speaking to is contextualized for the Nigeria we currently are all living in. and all of that. So the first thing I want to talk about really is how do you identify opportunities in a tough environment? And like like Dr. Popola has said, Nigeria is tough. There's no way around it. Globally also, we've gone through shocks, uncertainties with COVID and all of that. And even now, we're just right out of the heels of a recession, but inflation rates are climbing. The fundamentals and the statistics don't look good. But guess what? Even in a tough environment, even in a difficult environment, there are always opportunities. I remember when somebody said, if you think of a war, any war that is fought, even being fought locally or globally over the last 100+ years, there are people that make money out of a war. I'm not saying we want a war, we do not want a war, but I'm saying even in a difficult situation and environment, there are really always opportunities to be found. So I'm going to share first 3 ways in which we can start looking at opportunities, because I know quite a lot of us on this call today are people that strive for knowledge, look for information, and look for resources. So how do you focus? How do you find information around opportunities, and how do you narrow that opportunity in terms of finding out if they're if they're business ideas for you? The first recommendation I will give, and I always give, is that start with the data. One of the things that I think we don't do as well as Nigerians, and that's also partly because of our education system, is that we make decisions that are not factual based. We don't look at the number, we don't look at the information, and then use that to drive our decision making. And so if you're exploring business ideas, or you're saying, okay, I've worked for 15 years, I've worked for 20 years, or maybe I'm even been in a sector is not growing, I want to explore other opportunities. How do I start on that path? And one of the things I would always recommend is start with the data. Now, the data sources you can always look at is, first of all, places like just like industry data sources, or the country data sources, like the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, industry data reports, budgets, and even a lot of reports that we see globally. So World Bank, IMF, all of that. Why is that important? First of all, it gives you an overall state of like the economy, the environment. One of the data that I always tell people to look at is like household income and inflation rates, because it tells you information around what can people spend money, what can people spend money on, what's their income rate, what's their disposable income, what are the prices of goods, so that even if you're going into a sector, you also understand the challenges that a consumer or a potential customer will face, because maybe those are their maybe required goods or their luxury goods and all of that. So it gives you a sense of how things are doing generally. The other source of data that I also recommend is look at analyst or sectoral view. So for instance, the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, a lot of business schools, and I'm sure very soon we'll be seeing from Savannah Business School, a lot of like business analyst information and sectoral view. So look at that. The Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry also does quite a lot of sector reports, manufacturing, food. So it's not even just around larger sectors like agribusiness, but you're looking at larger things, what's happening in the tomato, corn, all of that. So look at those and understand it with that. And also even a lot of consulting firms also do a lot of reports. Why is this important? So a lot of times we run away from this, but the good thing for all of us now is that in the last 5 to 10 years, a lot of this data is less texty, but very graphic. So it's very simplistic, it's easier to read, it's easy to understand. It gives you an idea of what is happening generally, not just even in spaces that you're interested in, but in other relevant spaces that can be interesting to you. It tells you which sectors are growing or not growing. So I use this graph from the 2021 NESG macroeconomic outlook to even tell you where growth was in the last year. So like if you see this graph, telecoms, crop production, oil and gas, road transport, food, beverage, and tobacco, that tells you where people are spending money on and where investment is going to. So people that are looking to invest, whether it's private sector investment, whether it's even where government is looking to invest in, it gives you a sense of that. So you have a holistic information and view of what is happening, and you can start to engage. Because there's some people also on this call who you have some money, maybe you've put in money, you've worked 30 years, you've put in money somewhere, and you're looking to say, so you are not even struggling with where do I find money, it's where do I put in money and invest it and use it properly to be able to start a business, right? And you want to make very critical decisions. These things also tell you what the challenges and the opportunities are, so that with every situation, there's never any perfect scenario. There's always the things that you watch out for. And then there are also things and the opportunities that you see. Some of the other information it gives is even from a sectoral level. So sometimes we see a lot of, so I know I put Lagos Chamber there, but there's so many chambers of commerce across Nigeria. And so what I would recommend is also look, if you have a chamber of commerce that also does state level reports, look at that, because it also gives you not just a national view, but a state-centered view to what's happening. Because if you say, for instance, telecoms or IT or even agribusiness that a lot of people want to do, the agribusiness opportunities in Lagos are very different from Edo. They're different from Kwara. They're different from Kaduna. And those now give you a specific lens. Some of you even have like family land, right? In different states that are even beyond Lagos. How do you know the sectors, the crops to even invest in, or what do you want to do? So those for me are very important, but it gives you a holistic view. It keeps you informed. As an aspiring or current entrepreneur, you have to be ahead of the information. Unlike before, when it was only NTA News that we used to get information, you have information everywhere, you know. Now we know that a lot of people get information from Twitter. Twitter has been banned. We will look and we'll find information. There's so much. It comes to us in WhatsApp in different forms. What are you doing with that information? When you read a report or analysis, ask yourself, how does it apply to where I'm interested in, where I'm playing in, what are the opportunities I see, and what are the challenges, and what information do I need to drill down further? And then right after that, remember one of the things I said was, it tells you where the investment opportunities are. Then you now start to follow the money, right? So where are people spending on? Where are people raising money on? Where are people? So when I say people, it can be people who are investing, or it can also be individual customers like ourselves, where people are really paying for goods and services in. So to be able to follow the money, I ask that you use this 4 parameters. So where usually money is always in places where there's growth. So where there's a lot of growth and development, you see a lot of manufacturing and production, but you want to ask yourself, in what places are people, what exactly are the value chains that people are doing manufacturing in, or even like construction. You also want to look at places that have value chain linkages. So they're not just in one particular sector, but they cut across different sectors. So some of us have expertise. Maybe you've been an accountant for like 20 years, you know. So professional services also has the different opportunities and different dynamics. I know people always say trade is not a business, but trade is a business in my own opinion. A lot of established entrepreneurs we have in Nigeria, I can count more than 10 on my list, started with trade. Because in trade, you understand markets, you build relationships, you build networks, and then you even help to identify opportunities on where to start investing in and building resourcing. You also want to look at places that are enablers. So like technology, I never use technology as a sector. I say technology is an enabler. So even where are the investments? Yes, we have some young people here who are interested in technology, and technology has different elements. There's the software part, there's the hardware part of the technology. We're seeing even things around socioeconomic impact now. And that's also something we've seen significantly in the last 5 years at Fate, where there's so much opportunity in running business. I know one of the questions Dr. Popola asked was that, is it just profit people are looking at? And if I will answer that question, I'll say no. People are looking at profit and they're looking at impact, you know. And what they're saying that, yes, you can make money, but you can also make impact in that. We have food crisis challenge in Nigeria, you know, so are you building a business that can also help to enable food security? Are you building a business that can provide help and support in the health and in the education space? Sports, and this, it was even from the NESG that I learned this last year. Sports before was something that we always thought as an entertainment. You'll be very surprised that there's so many opportunities in the sports space, but sports is, and it's like a two-pronged approach. It's not just an opportunity in terms of business, but it's an opportunity to give all our young people who are unemployed or underemployed an avenue to even expend their energy and all of that. Then the creative, so whether it's fashion, it's art, it's design, and then circular economy. So circular economy is everything around sustainability, recycling, using waste and transforming it into something that is much better. So my idea is that explore all these different opportunities. Some of the successful entrepreneurs that I'm seeing coming out, even if I look at our entrepreneurs at Faith Foundation, did not even know anything about the sector that they were playing in before they started. You know, they just came about it and they built and they invested their resources in it when they realized that there were opportunities in it. You can't, even if you fall into a business, you can't grow and succeed in it if you don't invest in the knowledge, in the information, and in the requirements around it. And then the third thing around how to identify opportunities is that you should also understand segment behaviors, particularly in a downturn. And again, going back to what I said around how do you identify opportunities in a tough environment, is you want to take an analytic approach to it. If we look at last year, yes, a lot of businesses were challenged, right? But I can also tell you that even in sectors, whether it's hospitality, you know, whether it's trade, sector, even education, sectors that we felt were seriously affected by the pandemic, I know a lot of small and medium businesses that also grew during that time, because what they did was to say, okay, the way we're selling our product, people are not buying the way, or people are not looking for products and services the way they've traditionally looked for it. But the pandemic and the dynamics around it have created its own dynamic to it. So when people were saying, okay, they're not buying and all of that, we saw home shopping grow, right? We saw people doing a lot of products and services in consideration that the customers were going to work from home. We saw the growth of a lot of logistic businesses, right? When businesses started to work remotely, in fact, two of our businesses last year, they're in the HR space. So before then, a lot of maybe their programs were around training companies and teams in person, doing HR performance reviews and all of that. You would be surprised to know that two of them had very high growth, and guess the services they offered the most: exit management, staff reduction, advisory. So they were helping businesses to reduce. I'm not saying we want businesses to close down, but when businesses needed to review and to say, how do we reposition our talent to work efficiently, and maybe wanted to downsize and all of that, they looked for people to do that. So again, in every situation, in every space, there's a way and there are opportunities to pivot, and there are different opportunities to look at. For those in the technology space, we saw, and all of us had this, we're saying, okay, how do we manage our teams? For those that had small and growing businesses, a lot of corporates already had structures in place to manage their teams, manage payroll, manage workflows and all of that. But smaller businesses, smaller organizations struggled a bit initially. So software that allowed people to work very well, to share work, to manage performance, manage payroll, we just saw an uptake in that. And then we saw an uptake in business digitization. How do I teach my people to work online? How do I, in fact, even looking at how do I teach people to, we've taken Zoom for granted, but I know there was a time I had to take a Zoom class for about 2 to 3 hours because I didn't know about it. I knew how to use it, but I didn't know how to deliver on it. And we also as a team had to do full courses around that. So those were also opportunities. Then last year, people were also giving, for quite a lot of us that have like professional experiences and backgrounds, and we're asking, how do we set up business in? Last year, we saw that government was introducing economic stimulus packages and providing business support grants, but they required that you present a business plan, you showed that you were somewhere like Lagos State, you had to show that you pay your taxes, you had to show so many things. So we saw an increase in SME professional services providers. So again, look at what is happening with consumers, look at what is happening with businesses, and look at what is happening with government. When we are in a difficult situation or in an economic downturn, and that would also show you where different opportunities are and where you can opportunities to play in. So the second thing I want to talk about is also around, so now that you've started to identify business opportunities and all of that, how do you know that you're growing? And I really like the analogy that Dr. Popoola used. we all, whether we're parents or we're aunties or we're uncles or whatever, we know that, when a child is born, there are certain things you expect the child to sit up, to stand up, to crawl, to walk, to run, and all of that. In the same way, to be able to know whether a business is thriving and growing, there are critical like growth steps and growth milestones. And for me, I'll just put it as 4. We can break it down into a bit more detail. When you launch your idea, you have to see a growth in your customers. So for some of us, we may do in businesses that, it's not necessarily that your customers will grow in volume, but what they will order from you will be growing. So you have to look at, it's the sustainable growth around 3 C's: customer growth, cash flow growth, and capacity growth. So again, the growth in either customer orders or volume orders, the growth in also cash inflow, because sometimes, and I know a lot of small businesses is a challenge. You have customers, they're asking for your product services, but they're not paying. That's not growing business. You have to find business customers that are willing, but are also able to pay for your goods and services. So that cash flow growth must come in. But then the third part is also, your business also has to have the capacity to grow, because sometimes you get a lot of customer orders, and then it's a problem because you're a 1 or 2 man business and you can't fulfill those orders. So your growth also has to mean that resource-wise, technical-wise, operational-wise, your business also has to grow to manage that capacity of the growing business. And then, like Dr. Popola said earlier on, that profit is also important. And I don't expect a business, even in the first 1, 2, or 3 years. It takes a while, honestly, for sustainable profit to happen. But what you want is that even if you don't make profit in year 1, year 2, year 3, you can say, okay, my margins are reducing over time towards profitability. And I have to be clear here that revenues are different from profit. Revenue is the income that you make from the sales of your product or services. Profit is the difference between you making your expenses from the income that you get. So it's that margin over that is the profit. And because a lot of times you find out that people mistake revenue and profit. And so one of the things you want to look is that, okay, I may not be profitable in year 1, year 2, year 3, but I'm seeing that the margins between my income and my expenditure is getting larger and it's getting wider. The third part, which I talked about earlier, is that now, even as a business, you have to make impact. If you're not impacting the space, maybe because you're in a space, whether you're a bakery business, because you're a bakery business, you're growing, you're expanding, other people are learning from you, they are understanding your business. The third milestone for growth for me is that you have to be able to start to influence the space, the sector, the environment you're in. And then the fourth part is around succession planning, is that you can start to run that business to the point that you have a team. And a team is relative. A team can be 5 people. A team can be 10 people. For some, a team can be 50 or 100 people. But it is such that the first thing is that, you start to move away from just being very involved in day-to-day operations, and you are able to now start to have the time to strategically think about how do you grow your business. The other part of succession planning is being able to hand it over or sell the business and all of that. But I'm even just starting with the basics, that you move from a point of just thinking around and really being directly responsible for everything in the day-to-day operations of the business, to being able to have a business that starts to run efficiently well and allows you to step back and start to think strategically about the growth of the business. The last thing I have to say about these critical growth steps is that if you don't measure, you can't monitor growth. So even when you're talking about customer bases, one of the things we always say, everything about your business, you have to record. So every month, we're in June now, January, February, March, April, May. Do you have somewhere where you're noting down even just the growth of your customers? You're saying, okay, we've moved from 5 customers to 6 customers to 10 customers. Do you have somewhere where you're doing your bookkeeping, you're recording your details and information? So you're even monitoring how your income is growing and all of that. You're seeing your path towards profitability. If you don't set defined KPIs to say, okay, this is where I want to be by 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, you can monitor whether or not they're growing. So using that analogy of human growth and development too, when you go to a doctor and you have a baby at 6 months, the doctor will say, by 6 months, we expect the child to be doing this. We expect the child to be doing that. It's the same way that business has. And you also have to define what are those growth milestones for your business and how do you monitor them. So now that you have thought about different ideas, you've explored the data and information, and you have an idea around what are the growth milestones. For those of you that want to launch an idea, either new in entrepreneurship, or you want to expand into other things, these are sort of like 4 high-level ways in which you can go about building your, launching your idea. Is first of all to do your market research and really just to find out more about this thing you want to do, this product or services. Who is currently doing that? Who are the other people offering similar products and services? What are their strengths? What are their challenges? Because whatever challenges they have will be your challenges. What are the opportunities you see? How do you differentiate yourself in them? Also, it's very important to speak with your potential customers. And this is something we always shy away from. And sometimes because of our passion around a business, we always put ourselves as the customer, but no, you are not the customer. And you have to understand what other customers want, what they need. And you can't do that by guessing. You have to find out, you have to ask, you know. And Nigeria doesn't usually have a lot of customers. People are always asking me, where can I get customer insight data? And I'm saying that part of the challenge around Nigeria not having as much reports as it should mean you can go to the street, you can ask, you can find out, you can ask information, and then you are also empowered yourself because it's one first-hand information that you're getting. And then develop a test of your product or service, you know? So if you're in the food space, start to see, okay, let me see if I test, if I sell this thing, do people like it? Do they want it? If you do services, you do consulting, or you are into like digital products or something, develop something and start to see how people respond to it. Family and friends is always a good initial thing, but you have to go beyond family and friends because most times your family and friends will say, yeah, great job, all of that, but you have to go beyond other people that don't have emotional relationships with you at stake to also fully understand. And again, when people say they like your product, they buy your product for the test, or what do they like? What didn't they like? Is it affordable to them? And then it allows you to tweak the way your product is, the services, and all of that. So the next step will be now develop a business plan. And oftentimes we always think that business plan should be complicated. It's 50 pages, it's 40 pages and all of that. No, for me, start very simple. I think there's a verse in the Bible that says, write the vision, make it plain. I know when I think about something, when I write it, the way it is for me is very different than it just being in my head. So whether it's a notebook that you have, whether it's a piece of paper, whether it's a Google Notes, Apple app Notes, start to document. This is this idea. This is who my customers are. This is what they want. This is how this product or service will be. This is what it's going to involve. These are the requirements for me to set it up, whether infrastructural requirements, operating requirements, people requirements, and all of that. What I'm just asking you to do is to develop something that is a plan that you can look at and then now have like a timeline to say, okay, between June and July, I am going to just go once a week, just spend about 2 to 3 hours on the internet to just understand other businesses in the space. July to August, I will find out and I'll maybe spend 2 times a week to speak with potential customers and start to document. So develop a timeline, because sometimes I feel that we develop a plan, but we don't develop an action plan to say, okay, what am I going to do? And really pace ourselves and spread it out. Because sometimes we say, I'm going to start a business January 2022. Before you know it, December is here and you've not done anything. So break that plan into actionable milestones. Another tool that you can use is like the business model canvas, or develop like a pitch deck. A business model canvas, you can download sample copies of it online. We also have it up on our msmehub.org website. Just download it. There are a lot of videos on how to do that. Just print something else and start to map your target customers, your value proposition, your key resources, and all of that. So that allows you to look at it in one page. Or if you're that adept, you can do like a pitch proposal document, but just document something and then put a plan around what you need to do when, so that you also can see the progression towards you stepping up your idea. I don't think a business plan is ever complete. You always evolve it. So it has to be flexible. In fact, I always like looking at, because even me, I say that I'm a nonprofit, right? But we have a business plan because we are not set up to be lost, right? So even I always like to look back and see, oh, what did we plan for in 2015, 2016? It even gives you personal like pats on the back, because you can look back and say, oh, I've come a long way. Because sometimes building a business in Nigeria can be stressful, and sometimes you feel you've been doing this thing for 5 years and you've not made traction. But if you look back at what you did or where you were in 2015, it motivates you to even show that you've made some progress and traction along the way. And then number 3 is you now develop a budget around it. Everything we want to do it requires money. So what is the finance? I've not talked about accountant in this conversation, because I'm just trying to make it as simple and as practical as all. So what is this business going to cost? Do I have a budget? Do I have savings already? Can I apply those savings? What's it going to cost? And usually I would advise do something of a minimum of 6 months to at least a 2-year startup budget. What is it going to, what are the things I need to pay for? What are the things I need to buy? And then for a lot of us, what are the things, how do I even sustain myself and or my family or dependents if I'm going to transition that? Because it's one thing to start the business, but for some of us that may be moving from full-time employment where we're getting income every day to where we're dependent on the business, you also have to say, how do I sustain myself and how do I finance it? And then the last but not the least is you have to formalize the business. We're very big on ensuring that you formalize the business. You have to register your business with the CAC from the beginning. You have to get advice on, what are the taxes that I need to pay? What are the regulatory requirements, whether it's NAFDAC, SON. Some of us are in spaces where we need special qualifications and certifications to do that. So what are the regulatory requirements for me to obtain in this space? Get a business account. Do not start from, no matter how small it is, even if you're selling cake, get a business account in any of the banks. And most of the banks now have SME accounts, and get people to start paying from there. Even when you're taking money from your personal account to put in the business, what I would say is take money from Adeyemi's personal account, put it in Adenike Company Limited, so that even over time you can start to build like financial records and see how much you've put in the business. If an auntie, your husband, your wife, somebody, your child gives you money for this business, put it there. Even in the inflow, you put investment into so business. They're very basic, simple things, but it also starts to help you to keep financial records, financial discipline plan. So the next thing will be now, how do you build? So for some of us, we've launched ideas, but some of us are building businesses. So how are we now going to look at what are the key tips around building a successful business? For me, and if I look at every entrepreneur that, that I admire, that I see, and I'm even saying locally, because there's so many people doing very amazing things despite the challenges of the environment. One of the things that I see that is always consistent is that their vision and their front line for this business is always clear. So in your mind, and this is where mind also works, and it helps to motivate and stimulate you, because it also starts with you. How far through have you thought this business? If you sit down and you say, where do I want this thing to be in 10, 15, 20 years? What does that look like? We would always start small, but there's always a path that you're looking at. So even your vision and your purpose in terms of the endpoint for this business has to be very clear. I'll round up in the next 5 minutes. That's number one. Number two is that you have to be very clear around strategic planning. So I talked about the business plan, but one of the things we always advise is that every year, just say this 12 months, this is what I'm going to do for this business. And then every quarter, you're sitting down and you're looking at it. And preferably you even have people that you can say, this is how our business is looking at. This is our customers, this is our sales, this is our revenue, this is our finance. You're sharing it with people at least 2 times a year who can give you idea about that. But you can't share something that you're not measuring and you're not resulting. Always focus on the customers. Always. The customer truly is king. And so you need to continue to understand how the customer needs are evolving, how they're changing, and how you continue to build your businesses, your business structures around that. Because the customer now has so many opportunities and so many options beyond you. So you always have to put them front and center of your mind. Corporate governance, like I said, have an advisory board from day one. It's never too early to put structures and policies in place. Even if you're hiring low-skilled people, have a list of these are your job descriptions. This is what you should do. So start to document things, start to even show that documentation, discipline, even with your staff and your team. understand what is happening in your space, join trade groups around your business, join sector groups around your business. Those are where you understand policies, changes, things that are happening in your sectors, and you can engage effectively in them. And then you yourself have to build entrepreneurial education, have mentors, and you may not even have a one-on-one mentor. It can be somebody that you admire in your business, and you read about them, you study about them, you study their business. And that mentoring is very, very important because it helps you to see the paths that they went through and also help you to learn. And the last two things that I'll put together is financial and digital literacy. You have to build. So these courses that Savannah Business School is doing around finance for non-finance accountants, please go and register for it, because it is very important. Even if you have an accountant, in fact, even if you have an accounting degree, sometimes the way you think about money for your business is also important. And it's never too late to learn, and you can never learn too much around financial literacy and digital literacy, regardless of whatever your age is, your sector is. And then last but not the least, again, in a tough environment, understand the macroeconomic environment. Even a lot of people will tell you that this Twitter ban, if you look at trends from similar environments in the last couple of months, you could have sort of seen it coming. So one of the things you can also do if you have a successful business and you don't want to be sidelined is do a risk mapping. You know, I shared with one of our classes about 2 weeks ago that start to do a risk mapping and just say every 2 months, what are the risks? What are the political risks, social risks, legal risks to my business, and how can I watch against that? Watch your cash flow. Be very customer centric. Make sure that you also want to be lean and efficient. So don't hire unnecessarily unless you need to. Use technology to build, expand, and grow your business. And always really just be innovative about your approach to how you're thinking about your business growth. I will definitely be happy to answer more questions later. But thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ade, Nikki Adeyemi. That's been very, very fantastic. In fact, she can go on and on and on because this is what she does every day, every minute. It's in her DNA. And I'm happy that within the last 25 minutes, we've been able to give us a synopsis, what I call synopsis. And I believe that even me, I've taken one or two things away from what you have said. And I know quite a lot of participants also have taken quite a lot of things away. You said they should start with the data in mind. They should try to support their aspirations and their dream with data, with what is realistic, and not just fantasy of what is their head without trying to validate what is there. They should follow the money. Where are the growth drivers? Where is the value chain? What are the enablers? What are the socioeconomic impact of what they are trying to do? You ask them to understand segment behaviors, particularly in this kind of a downturn that we find ourselves. You also talk about critical growth steps. And I like the 3 C's on sustainable growth: the customer, the cash, the capacity. I like the focus on profitability, focus on impact, and then on succession planning. Those are very critical things for a business to try to survive. And they must be measurable. You mentioned that very well, that clearly all these things must be done in such a way that they can be measured. And then you now went to talking about how they can launch their ideas, market research, developing business plan. That doesn't need to be something so sophisticated and all of that. But as they are putting all those things together, they themselves begin to see where are likely to be pain points, where they are likely to see challenges, and things that may work, things that may not work. That's the essence of you yourself being involved in going through all of that. You talk about startup budgeting and financing requirements, which also they could see when they are developing the kind of the business plan, and then formulate formalize the business registration for the business is really key. Then you went to talk around building a successful business, things that they must pay attention to. I rounded up in things they must also pay attention to in a tough environment like we are now. I mean, it's important to really underscore that, to see that there is no best time to start a business. So people may be thinking, oh, this time is so bad, let me wait. You keep on waiting because at any point in time, there are businesses that are thriving and there are businesses that will be experiencing challenges. So even in a thriving environment, in an environment that everything is doing well, there will still be some businesses that will not be doing well at that time because there are sectors that could not be doing well. And as we speak today, we know that quite a lot of sectors are also doing very well. And this is the whole essence of your conversation this morning. Thank you so much. There have been a lot of interest in what you have presented. I'm sure you can see the chat and Q&A. We'll try to summarize, just pick some of them when after Ni has presented. So that please try to study some of them, and I probably will give you the indulgence to pick the one that you think are very critical, that you likely to really talk to. So we'll bring on Ni now. Before we do that, let's have 1 minute of interlude. Thank you very much. Welcome back. So now we moved on to Mr. Ni Yusuf. We've earlier introduced him. He is the managing partner of Veraki Partners and former managing director of Accenture Nigeria and West Africa. He's fully loaded. The CV, his registration is like reading his biography, and I've done that. So Ni, we want to leave the floor for you in the next 25 minutes.
All right, thanks, and good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity. Please let me know when you can see my screen and let me know that I'm audible.
Yes, we can see your screen. You just need to go into PowerPoint present mode now.
Yeah, we'll do that. All right, thanks. And a pleasure to be sharing my thoughts and to be sharing the stage with Dr. Opola and with Nike Adeyemi. And it's interesting that I've been put in the middle. So both of them are squeezing me from left and right. But we'll try to do what we can. And thank you, Nike, for setting the stage. And I think what Nike has done really is to make it easier for me to be able to talk to the issue of business failures, why businesses fail and why businesses fail, and of course, how you can build your own business to last. And as I was working on the materials, I realized I'm also speaking to myself. Because like Dr. Opola introduced, since 2019, I and 4 of my friends have set up a new company, Veraki Partners. When we left from Accenture, we then formed Veraki Partners. And so this for me is also a learning process. And so I've shown 3 traditional traits that those who are above 40 years of age will be used to. And if your business was centered around helping people do tribal marks, that business would have failed a long time ago. And if your business was centered around repairing the old IBM typewriters, or your business was centered around repairing the manual hair clippers, or even you are a salon using the manual clipper, your business would have gone under. And so they just to remind us that with the best of intents, businesses do fail. And these are traditional businesses all 3 are businesses that I grew up knowing in the 70s. And so we're in a volatile world, a world that is full of uncertainties. And I think in the last 2 years or 3 years, we've seen the impact of digital disruption. We've seen the impact of COVID-19, which is a health disruption. We've seen cyber threats, we've seen policy uncertainties, we've seen terrorism, we've seen regulatory activism. And these are all activities that are making the world and the business environment to be volatile, to be uncertain. to be complex and to be ambiguous. And that's the world that we live in. And interestingly, the VUCA terminology was coined by the US military. It wasn't a business terminology, it was coined by the US military, but it's as much relevant for business as it is for military. And my own view is that the world will continue to be in the VUCA world. There will no longer be a stable world. So you cannot wait for that stability. I know Dr. Opola says there is, every time is the best time to start a business. Because if you are waiting for the right time, then you wait till the kingdom come. And so this slide speaks of the story of Nigeria, right? So again, it depends on what you see. What do you see when you look at Nigeria? Some people see corruption, they see exchange, naira fluctuation, they see high unemployment, they see insecurity, they see huge poverty, and they moan and they cry. But some people see opportunities to create Paystack. Paystack was created 2015. Some people see opportunities to create Flutterwave. Paystack 2015, Flutterwave was created 2016, 5 years ago. And today it's $1 billion enterprise. So in the midst of this crisis, young Nigerians are creating incredible companies that are employing people, that are having consumers, and that are growing even outside of Nigeria. Iroko TV is watched in almost every country where you have Nigerians in the diaspora. Kobo 360 is a logistics company that is now in logistics company that is now in 5 countries. Kuda is a new bank that is growing rapidly. So all these are companies created by young Nigerians in the last 5 or 6 years, apart from Carbon. And so, like Albert Einstein said, in the midst of every crisis lies the great opportunity. So we can look at the crisis or we can look at the opportunities. And the reality is that business disruptions will always lead to business comfortable with. We used to have post offices, then we had Korea companies disrupting post offices. The Korea services itself has been disrupted by fax. Fax itself has been disrupted by email. Email has been disrupted by messaging, right? Messaging is not being disrupted, right? Not many people use cash again. They're using cards, they're using mobile. A lot of people now they watch films through Facebook, through YouTube, through streaming, Netflix, etc. Right? WhatsApp is disrupting telecom companies. Uber is the most capitalized mobility company in the world, yet Uber doesn't have an assembly machine. Uber doesn't own cars or own trucks. Right? Airbnb is the largest hospitality company, but it doesn't have physical buildings. We all know we're working with Zoom. Zoom didn't exist some 6 or 7 years ago. So disruptions will always happen. And it's a case of it's either you disrupt or you are disrupted, but you cannot stand in one place. Either you keep running. In Africa, every day, the gazelle is running, because if the gazelle doesn't run, lion will kill it. And if the lion doesn't kill the gazelle, lion will go hungry. So you need to keep disrupting, otherwise you'll be disrupted. Nigeria is an interesting country, but also a tough environment, and I understand that. According to a statistics by the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, as of 2017, we had 41.5 million MSMEs, micro, small, medium enterprises. So that's a growth from the 37 million that we had in 2013. So the number of MSMEs grew from 37 million to 41 million. But the sad part is that the number of medium-sized companies that have employees between 50 to 250 employees, that number reduced from 4,000 plus to less than 2,000. So big companies reduced, but mom and pop companies, small companies increased. That's because you and I formed companies, right? So Nike will form Adenike Limited, and I will form Niyi and Adenike and Co. Now, according to a survey by the World Business Development Council, MSMEs in Nigeria complained of 3 major business challenges: access to finance, electricity, and corruption. Those are the 3 major challenges that affected most businesses in Nigeria. In addition, you now have tax rate, high tax rates, transportation issues, logistics, and political instability. But SMEs continue to be a big part of the business climate, of the jobs, and of growth. But while MSMEs are attractive, MSMEs also fail, and they fail rapidly. Right, a study that was done in US in 2019 by Salesforce says that most millennials and Gen Zs are 188%, that's about 200% likely to have a side business. What in Nigeria we call Ozu, to be hustling. And more than 50% of businesses fail in the first year, and more than 95% of small businesses fail in the first 5 years. So in the first year, more than 50%, half of businesses fail, and by the 5th year, more than 95% of businesses fail. So that's a challenge that we're in. And according to Uri-Levin, it's an Israeli that has the record of selling 2 companies, forming and selling 2 companies that are above $1 billion, what you call unicorn. It says that the journey of failure is not a straight road to failure. No, you fail, you go on, you fail, you go on, you fail, you go on. And there are intermittent failures, and some people stop there, while some continue pushing until they succeed. But it's not a straight line. There's no straight line to success. You go up, you crash, you go up, you crash, and it's your staying power that matters. But the statistics are very alarming. And so why do businesses fail? I've tried to conceptualize this for Nigeria, and I think Nike has spoken about some of this. I think for me, the first reason, or the big reason why businesses fail is lack of market, or what I call customer demand. If you bring forth a product or a service, and no one is buying your product, no one is buying your service, either because the product doesn't have a fit to the market, there's no market fit, or your product has gone old, is obsolete, or you are not able to generate enough demand for the product, or you've forecasted demand inaccurately. While your market is a market of 10 persons, you forecasted that is a market of 2,000 persons, and so you've developed capacity for 2,000, whereas you only have 1,000 persons that want your product. Or when you have bad customer service. So these are things that can lead to poor demand for your product. But I think for me, the greatest reason for poor demand is very low product market fit. If your product doesn't fit the market. If your product fits the market, demand will be huge. I mean, we all know some years ago when Promasidol came with a 5 naira mix sachet. Those 5 naira mix sachet, people started buying them rapidly. I think that was Cowbell also. And that was the beginning of the small sachet, use ones, affordable products. And the market demand soared. And so market fit is important. Second is if you don't have capital. If you don't have capital to buy assets, you don't have capital to support your cash flow, to support your working capital for marketing, to pay salaries, to buy inventories, the business is going to die. And you can raise capital either by equity or through debt. And like Nike said, cash flow is important. Cash flow is the ability for you to have enough income to cover your expenses. The third reason why businesses fail is the quality of labor. The quality of labor. You know, like they say, if you pay peanuts, you employ monkeys, right? And I think the greatest reason, I mean, one of the reasons where companies like at Anderson, KPMG, and Veracity and Co are doing well is the quality of the staff, right? So if you have good labor, they will solve the business problems for you. And so if you don't reward people well, if the work environment is hostile, or if there's nepotism, so people know that they can never be the CEO because you are saving it for your son or your daughter. And so somebody that has worked for you for 40 years will end up in a GM. But your son that is less than 32 years will come from school after NYC and become ED and become CEO. Then talents will not stay in that business because they know there's a ceiling, there's a glass. So that's important. The intensity of competition is also critical. If you're in an industry where competition is very fierce, where there are plenty of companies doing similar thing, it's going to be challenging. Or even in a company in this industry where there are many dominant players. So imagine if you are coming to telecoms industry today, you worry about your MTN, your Airtel, your Glo, and your Etisalat. Right? How are you going to obstacle those guys? In a country where most of us already have telephone, where telephone density is above 102%. If your business model is faulty, for instance, if it's asset intensive, you know, I mean, I give an example of most traditional women, a business model where you pay upfront to your supplier, to the distributor. If you're a retailer, you pay to the distributor you pay like 1 month ahead for them to supply you good. So you're giving the distributor credit. And then after 1 month, they supply you the goods. And then you also then sell on credit to consumers. So in the middle, you are the lender. You are lending to distributors. You are lending to your customers. And that's what most small businesses in Nigeria do. They provide lending services that they are not well positioned to do. So a business model that is faulty won't take you long. If you as an entrepreneur don't have the staying power, if you are doing it as a side hustle and you work 9 to 5 or 9 to 9 in paid employment, and then you only spend 3 hours on this small business, it won't go far. If you are chasing too many goals, you need to have few goals. It's either you want to grab market share or you want to be profitable. If you are married to the solution instead of married to the problem, you know, and let me explain this. Being married to the solution. If you look at the banking industry, the solution is you want customers to come and withdraw cash. Whether they withdraw it from the banking or through ATM, through POS, through their mobile app, through USSD, those are all channels. But if you as a bank or you as a technology provider says, I will only provide you cash withdrawal through my banking or through my ATM, that means you are married to your solution, but you are not providing different solutions when customers want different solutions. We know about the high cost of doing business in Nigeria. We know about changes in regulations that can affect businesses. And lastly, governance, which Nikki also talked about. especially when you have a board that is ineffective or you don't have a board at all, or when founders fight and then they split the company. So these are reasons why business fail. But falling down is not a failure. Failure comes when you stay and you refuse to get up, according to Socrates. And Socrates is one of the greatest philosophers from Greece, the teacher of Plato, who also taught, who in turn became the teacher of Aristotle. So we all will fail sometimes and will fall down. But what is important is getting up. And so to get up, my thoughts is you need to focus on the 5 forces of growth. There are 5 things that I say that will lead to growth. The first is customer. Focus on the customer. And how do you focus on the customer? A few things. First, find a big problem that is affecting many users, right? If you find a problem that's affecting 10 users versus a problem that is affecting 10 million users or 10 million customers, right? So find a big problem that's affecting millions of people. Then create a solution that these many users or customers will be willing to pay for. So it must be a big problem. And like a colleague of mine would say, it must be a problem that causes migraine. So find a problem like migraine, not a problem like headache. Because if it's headache, they can decide to sleep, use paracetamol, or go and shower. But if it's migraine, they know they must go to the clinic. So find a big problem that's affecting millions of users and create a solution that people will be willing to pay for. If you're able to do that, you're in a good spot. Then your next challenge will be just to reduce your CAC. That's your customer acquisition cost. Reduce the customer acquisition cost, increase your product market fit, and increase the lifetime value of the customer so that you can take the customer with you for many years. There's a Japanese phenomenon, Japanese thought around what they call ikigai. Ikigai is this place of something you are passionate about.
Okay, so now you are off. We can't hear you. So we wait a bit for Neil to join us. I think he has. So are you back?
All right, sorry. Yeah, I'm back, and I hope you can see and hear me now. I'm back.
So we can see you. I think your presentation is off now.
Okay, let me try and see if I can bring it back. So that's a challenge of network stability in my area. So
yeah,
I'll be willing to pay for it if there's somebody who's willing to pay.
It goes down a bit. It comes up. It's.
Hopefully it will get better now. Right. So network stability is an issue. I and many others will be willing to pay for it if somebody can create a solution. Right. So start from the customer, and I was explaining the Ikigai model, and I said entertainers, musicians, footballers, for me, represents a good example of Ikigai. The world need entertainment. Nigerian youths follow music, they follow sports, they pay for it. And Okocha is good at it, he loves it, A Burna Boy is good at music, he loves it. So that is a sweet spot. And that's where you want to be like, you want to be. Then find capital. Capital for not just to acquire assets, but also to run the business. You can start with equity capital from yourself, from friends, from families. And what I say to people who are starting businesses is, how much of your own capital have you put into the business? How much of capital of your friends and families are there? Because if your friends and families cannot put money behind you and behind your idea, then why do you expect an external party to put money behind you and your idea? So you as a person must be able to put money down. You must be able to get your friends and families to put money behind you. And make sure you have enough capital to give you a runway, 18 to 24 months if possible. Because you will need that 18 to 24 months before your business can start generating decent income, unless you are into trading. Then the third force of growth is labor. Labor is important. Labor is about people who have the right character, who have the right competence, who have the right capacity, who have the capacity, and who have the values. Values are important. Right now, I tend to recruit people for values. You know, how your values align with mine, with that of Veraki, and less about your competence. We can train you. We can train you to be anything we want to train you to, but your values are important. You need to surround yourself with a strong team. You need to surround yourself with a strong team. You cannot be the only person talking in the room. If you are, it's as a one-man show. You need to have a team that can challenge you. You need to have a team that can do the heavy lifting. And you must create an environment where they see prospect for career growth, where they also are rewarded appropriately and sometimes with equity. So you will see that a lot of startups today have co-owners. It's not just one person that is the owner. They have 2 or 3 or 4 co-owners, and 4 heads are better than one. The fourth force of growth is technology. Use technology to create new products or to renew your products and to expand boundaries, to be in Nigeria. Unlike when you have a physical shop in Lekki will only be accessible to customers in Lekki, but a shop online is accessible to anybody in the world 24/7. So technology is important. And then the last force of growth is entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship talks to
Okay, so we have that issue again. I believe he will come up very, very soon. We should just be a bit patient. It's the fluctuations in the internet in this area that's causing this. Just bear with us as we will, hope that he will be with us shortly. He's talking around the 5 focus forces of growth, things that we should be really interested in if you want to avoid failure of your business. He's spoken around the customer, which is very important. He has spoken around capital. He's touched labor. He also has, spoken around how it's important for us to deploy technology at this age so that we can have customers from all over the world rather than from just one location where people can physically get to. And he was just trying to discuss the 5th item, which is entrepreneurship. That has to do with proper setting up of the business, values, governance, structures, plans, processes. These are the things that me is trying to round up that slide with. We'll still hold on. Hopefully, I think it's almost back now. Then he highlighted the importance of people and talk around us recruiting people with high or good values who can then be trained to become whatever we want them to be, to become, and assume the responsibility we want them to assume in the workplace. Nee, are you back?
Yes, I'm back, but I've just been giving access to share my screen. So I was about going to say, so now I have access. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, yes.
All right, so I'm on my third internet service. I have 3, so let's hope this will stay well. All right, so let me move on. I think part of entrepreneurship is to build an environment that supports experimentation, so people can test and fail. But the important thing is you need to fail fast and fail forward. Don't spend 1 million testing a product. Spend 100,000 to test a product, and if it doesn't work well, quickly kill it, and then you move on. Right. So those are the 5 forces of growth. And in rounding up, it's important to create a business that has a purpose. Simon Sinek is an American strategy guy who says always start with why. Most of us know what we want to do. Most organizations know what they are doing. I'm selling water. They know how they do it, but they don't know why they do it, right? And the why is important. Why are you into what you are doing, right? The reason cannot be because you want to make money. I mean, if you ask Walt Disney, when Walt Disney started Disney World, his goal was to make people happy, to make kids to smile. And so he created Mickey Mouse, he created the Disney World. And in the process, he created a big multinational, a global company. He made money, he created wealth. So your reason cannot be money, even though for most of us, that's the main reason. We want to just start earning goodie. But such organizations do not last. If they were created just to make money, they don't last. But an organization that has a greater purpose beyond money, it's an organization that lasts. So look at Google. Google's purpose is to make information available to everyone. Microsoft is to make a PC available on every desk, right? Facebook is to allow social connections. So you must have a reason beyond money. And once you have that reason, that purpose, that main cause, you need to get everybody along to follow you in terms of that main cause. Second thing is you must know the environment. And Nikki has talked about PESTLE, so I won't speak too much of that. You must know the environment where you are paying in. If you're in an industry where anybody can just start, anybody can. So if you take pure water, anybody can start today to sell pure water. Even though we need to get NAFDAC approval, but many start pure water without getting NAFDAC approval. You can get into photography as a business without any approval, right? So if you're in a business where anybody can start as a business, if you're in a business where there can be substitute products, if you're in a business where the suppliers have huge power over you, and the buyers have huge power over you, you are in a challenging environment, and such businesses will have to do more and struggle to be able to thrive. And so understand the 5 forces, that's the Porter's 5 forces, and use that to know how your industry is and what you can, and how you can position yourself within the industry. Also understand environment is, so if you take Nigeria, the F is knowing what people spend on according to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, the average Nigerian spends 81.5% of his income on 3 things: food, clothing, accommodation. That's 81.5. By the time you had transport, health, it becomes 94%, right? And so what are you selling? Are you selling food that they buy? Or are you selling something that is not among the major things that people spend their money on? Part of knowing the consumer is also, or your customer, is to ask yourself, who are our customers? Why do they buy from us? Why do some not buy from us? And so that begins to give you insights. Nigeria is a peculiar country. We have 200 million consumers or population, of which 44% of those are below the age of 15. So it's a young population, of which about 60% live on less than 1,000 naira per day. So if you are developing a product that only 2% of us can buy versus a product or a service that many can buy, that should begin to tell you what the size of the market is. And that should help you into forecasting, right? And that's what should help you to determine where you should locate your products. You cannot bring, so I'm in Lagos. You cannot bring a luxurious product and take it to some areas in Lagos. It's better for you to bring that luxurious product to Ikeja GRA, to Lekki, to Ikoyi, if you understand your customer segments, right? You cannot be selling a 1 million naira watch and you open up a shop in my village in Oyo State. Even the children in the village, all of them are migrated to Lagos, right? So understand your customer segment, and that allows you to develop your product tactics and to develop your business ideas. And that goes into the business model. And 2 things there. First is your appropriate price. The price you sell your product should be a price that covers your cost, a price that the customer believes is worthy, that is more than the value derived, and a price that will make your product to be competitive in the marketplace. So that's an appropriate price. So an appropriate price is at the intersection of you covering your costs, being competitive in the marketplace, and a price that the customer thinks is worthy, is more than the value they are deriving. And that's how you get an appropriate price. And so then next is to create a right business model. So take Uber. Uber is a transport company. It is resources. It does not have cars. It does not own motor vehicles. Whereas another company could also be a transport company, like we have in Nigeria, the Ekemedili Chukwus and all the rest, and they own vehicles, they own trucks. So one business is easier to set up, it's cheaper, faster to set up because it is asset light. While another business model is asset intensive. You need to spend millions to buy cars, to buy trucks, to hire drivers, to manage them, to track them, and to maintain those assets. Right. So this tool is what they call the business model canvas, and you need to use it just to understand what your business model is. Now, business model basically says, what am I doing? Who are my customers? And how do I make money? And you'll be in a good place if you are the best at what customers want the most. Be the best at what customers want the most. And you can be the worst at things that customers do not value. So if your customers value cost, price, then be the low cost or the lowest cost provider. But if your customers value design, luxury, then be the most luxurious provider. And the other thing is you need to have multiple products. Don't be just one product company, because each product will have a lifetime. No one product lives forever. After a while, your market share will reduce, or the growth rate of that product will reduce. So you need to have products that are stars, that are cash cows or dogs or question marks. That means you must have products that have high market, the rate of growth of the market is high, and your market share is high. That's stars. But after a while, they will become cash cows where the market share remains high, but the growth rate is low, which is what is happening to telecom companies now in terms of voice. You know, your MTN, your Airtel, they have high market share, but the growth rate of voice is low because many of us have phones already. And so that's why they are now pushing data. They are pushing entertainment where the growth rate is still high. And so you must see how you can create new products in new markets or new products in existing markets, etc. And that means it's a continuous journey. You will never rest and say, I'm there. No, you need to keep moving. And in moving, you must have a growth mindset. A growth mindset is a mindset that sees hurdles as opportunities, right? And you don't accept no for an answer. No means not yet, not now, not you, not here, not this. No does not mean never. So you will get rejections, you will get issues, but you must keep standing, keep moving, and you must have the power and the mindset to see everything as lessons for you to do better and do more. And lastly, you must avoid making false choices. That's what they call the concept of the hand. The concept of the hand, according to Jim Collins, you can be fast and be good. You can be of good quality products, produce good quality products, and still be affordable. You can be creative in your thinking and still be disciplined about the way you execute. You look for data to guide you, but you must also be able to take bold steps. You know, many of us will suffer analysis paralysis. We keep asking for information and data, and then we do not move. So you must validate your moves, but you also can move fast. Have a business with a purpose, but also be profitable. And like a friend of mine just said a few weeks ago, this is not about being in the box or thinking out of the box. It's about shattering the box, shatter the box, make sure there's no box to constrain you, right? So don't even think that you're in a box, just blow the box away. And if you do all of that, to my mind, we have the opportunity to build a pyramid that will last forever. Our forefathers did it in Egypt, and I think you and I will also have a chance to also build lasting confidence. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Nii. I was almost trying to stop you, but I know everyone is enjoying the presentation, just like they did with Adeyemi's presentation. And there's a load of information out there that both of you have given to us today. Fantastic presentation. There have been a lot of comments, very positive comments to both you and Nike, and I want to thank you. Incidentally, we always try to stay within time allotted for our program, but I don't know how we are going to deal with this today because I have only 4 minutes left. So what I want to do now is we'll probably extend by a few minutes. And the way I want to go about the question and answer is just to give the floor to Adenike first. I believe she has gone through the questions because I can't go through what Nii has presented again. I have a summary of it, but we don't have the time. We'll share the slide of the presentation, both presentations with you, and the recording will also be streaming after this. So if Nike wants to, I don't know whether she speaks some questions, whether I can give you some questions from what a lot of questions have been asked. If you have picked any that you can attend to within just 5 minutes, and also will then give me some 5 minutes to also pick some questions. Otherwise, I can give you some questions specifically to answer from the questions that have been asked by the audience. Nika, how do you want to go about it?
I'll allow you to give me some questions. I can also, while Mr. Yusuf is responding, I can type in for the other ones that I don't address in the Q&A box.
Okay, so so I have here, how can how do you create a sustainability plan? That's by Hajar Adam Musa. How do you want to create a sustainability plan for your business? Then there is Ismail Haruna. What can one in travel agency business do to make more revenue at this time? Then we have Abdulgafar Musliuddin. He said he should give specific industry or sector that startup can go into, considering the risk in the kind of environment that we find ourselves. And then the final one here is by one Ibrahim Bello, who says, for older people, maybe from 55 years and above, do you still advise that they can go into business? You know, so maybe I should just leave you with that for now.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to go into that. I'll actually start with the last question. I don't know if it was a Harvard study or I would look for it, but there's a study in the last 6 months that showed that older entrepreneurs are more successful than younger entrepreneurs. So when you see all those under 30, under 40, all of that, I know that it can be, I mean, I'm over 40, but sometimes even me, I'm challenged that it doesn't mean that I'm in my later years, but no. As somebody who is in the, and I'm saying this, my dad is in front of me, he's 89 years old. So he's there hearing this too. It's never too late to start a business. I think that there is an advantage and benefit that maturity brings that is very different. So yes, younger people are agile, they have energy and all of that in different ways. You know, I'm Yoruba, you know, they say, what was that? Mr. Yusuf, Dr. Koko, help me. So I got
you said it, you got it.
So that means that a younger person can have as many clothes as an adult, but will not have enough rags. And those rags are experience. And I think that if you look at age, there's always whether you're young, you're old, whether you're male or female, always look like the chart that Mr. Yusuf showed. There's always opportunity, there's always a challenge. And so look at age from the perspective of experience, from the perspective of knowledge, from the perspective of your network that you have, and build on that. Because there's some things that I would rather give or business that I'll do with an older person than with a younger person. And so when you're building whatever of your business is, do not use that your age as your SWOT, as your strength, right? So I'll give a personal example is when people talk about Faith Foundation, and so you guys you're an older organization, you're a dinosaur, I'll say no. We have staying power. We've been here for 21 years. There's experience we have in this space. There's knowledge and all of that we have. So how you see your age it's really about you. And you can even build a story about your values, your experience, your depth of knowledge, and how that even makes you a much more experienced, much more prospect to be a successful entrepreneur than another younger entrepreneur. What I would recommend is that really just bolster your knowledge and your experience. If you don't have any financial background, take a business course. Do you understand? Take some financial course. Take social marketing course so that you understand some of the new terms, the new terminology. You're also flexible and adaptable with social media. Some of my aunties, they even know how to use WhatsApp than young people do. Do you understand? So I feel that there are even much more benefits with age, and statistics actually prove it than it is there. So please go ahead and run the business. In terms of sectors to play in, I think for me, and I'm always very careful about giving specific sectors to play in. What I can do is just give guidelines, because with every sector, every opportunity. So the first thing is that what is your own experience? What is your own knowledge? There's something I say, what is in your hand to use? And so what if you're looking at a sector, what are the things that are immediate to you? Have you worked in a particular sector for a while where you've built in some knowledge, your information? Do you have certain resources? So maybe you have space in your house that you can use for something, you have farmland or whatever. Do you have certain aptitude for a particular skill or knowledge or space? So I will first of all start to say, okay, what do you have in your hand already? And then number two, again, you cannot jump into a sector without all of that knowledge. So shortlist 2 or 3 sectors that you feel are interesting to you based on the resources that are available or even your interest or your passion. And then you now start to identify the sectors that are there. With every sector, there's every opportunity. So I'm always very careful to specifically say, go and do this or go and run this type of business. In the travel industry, what we've seen is that a lot of people are looking inward. So because of the limitations that we had over the last 12 months or more around traveling, a lot of people started to look at local traveling, local hospitality, local tourism. And so what we even saw was that if you look in Lagos, a lot of people that would typically have traveled I would probably have done like 4 or 5 trips for work or whatever. Now I've stayed home for about 16 months. And so when people, and then even things around the limitations around traveling. So even to travel is more expensive now. Foreign exchange is not good on Naira. And then you have to do COVID tests. There's so many requirements and restrictions. And so if you are in the travel industry, start to see how you can build a product or service around local tourism, local travel. If you are based in Lagos, it's even easier. I know local road travel is a bit difficult because of security and all of that, but look inside, look internally, and then build around it. So I know 2 of our travel agents have evolved their business services to provide tourism options for local things. So in Lagos, what you can do if you are somebody you want to just spend a week or a weekend somewhere, they'll give you a list of different hotels you can go to, resorts, beach places you can go to, and all of that. So that's what I would recommend until travel businesses pick up and until just travel internationally picks up, and then there are lesser restrictions to being able to travel. And then the first question around sustainability plan. Again, that's a very wide question, but the simple things I'll pick up from what I've said and what Mr. Yusuf has said. So first off, where exactly is your long-term goal? So what do you want to be? Have like milestones in the next 3 years, in the next 5 years, and maybe the next 10 years, if you want to think about that. How do you want your business to be? And that how has to be very defined. I want to have grown by this revenue size. I want to have reached this market reach. I want to have launched this type of service growth and all of that. So if you have sort of like the end in mind, you now start to say, what are the things that I need to be able to do that? What's the kind of financing I need? What kind of people I need? What's the kind of structure I need? What's the kind of process I need? So the vision there, the KPI goals, and then sort of like the structural foundations that will help you to get there. And then you now have to say, how do I know when I get there? So how do I know that we've been able to give, what are the indicators that will show that I've gotten the right kind of people, what kind of behaviors I want to see, what kind of market presence and spread I want to see. And then put in, because a plan is also only as good as the implementation and how it's monitored. So going back again to what I've said and also what Mr. Yusuf has said, have people that you can bounce off. So even if you can't set up a formal board, have an advisory, a team of advisors, somebody that has some finance experience or market experience, some knowledge of experience of your sector, where 2 to 3 times a year you meet with them and they serve as your soundboard and your checkpoint to say, this is what you said you will do in this 3 months. Have you achieved it? Have you done this? What are the challenges? How can we give you insights and advice to be able to overcome them? So thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Nike. So thank you so much. Let me go back to Nii, and then we'll come back to it for your 1 minute roundup. Whatever you want to give to us as 1 minute, in 1 minute just to round up. Nii will have about 5 minutes. I have so many questions, I even don't know which one to give to you. Okay, but just a couple of them. Someone said, what's the meaning of no USP in faulty business model? No USP in 40
No.
business. USP.
Unique selling proposition. What's unique about you?
So that's that one you have answered. So how do you, someone else asked, how do we mitigate the threat of new entry? Can you mitigate that? How do you mitigate the threat of new entry? Then, do you want to just
go ahead.
Take them,
no, go ahead. I think okay. I've seen a few questions that can be combined.
Oh, okay. Or do you have questions you want to pick on your own, or do you want me to just give them to you?
No, so let me try and answer that new entry with a few other questions. Okay. Right. So
they're just within 5 minutes.
So okay, fine. So it depends on your position in the industry and how much strength that you have. Right. So for instance, you can mitigate new entry by selling at the lowest price possible, which is what one of the big companies in Nigeria does. So when you sell it at such a low price, I mean, that company uses capital as a basis of competition, right? It's capital. So if you sell an item at 1 naira, the new entrant must be able to do it at less than 1 naira profitably. Not many companies can do that. But when you sell an item at 1,000, then you make it possible for Naked and I to come and with a product at 200 naira, right? So pricing can be a way. Second way can be when you lock customer in, you sign long-term contracts with customers and say, okay, if you sign 10 years contract with me, I would set this into you at 80% discount, whatever. But that means you must be able to do it in a low cost, profitable manner. Okay, sir. Next question.
Okay, so let me just 2 more questions and then allow you to go. But you can then use that to do your 1 minute roundup so that they can come back finally. Just 2 questions. How should business owners reward themselves? SMEs in particular, how should they reward themselves? Should they pick and then just pick whatever she wants to pick, or must have salary, or what are the various models that are available? What's the best practice that a business owner can really take? And then the last one is, what should be metrics for measuring a successful and sustainable business? What should be those metrics? What are the few things?
All right. So I think for a business owner, there's a distinction between being an owner and being a worker. And so you first must reward yourself as a worker, which means there's a salary. And you need to define that salary to be competitive, right? If I'm a bank MD and I'm the owner of the bank, my reward as being the MD should not be more than the reward of the MD of other like banks. No, I've bought a microfinance bank, so I must check the MD, the salary of the MD of the microfinance bank and make sure mine is comparative. So that's my reward as being a bank MD. Then my reward as being an owner would then be the dividend, the profit sharing when the company makes a profit, right? And so if you do it that way, Noyinka talks about, I make money, also have a company account separate from my own personal account. And so your reward is the salary you earn and the dividend when the company makes a profit. Second is to measure a successful and sustainable business. I think you need to have both leading and lagging indicators. Most of us use revenue, we use profit. Those are lagging indicators because they report what has happened. The indicator will tell you what will likely happen. And so I'll look at the business, the sales proposal that I'm sending out, my customer acquisition rates. If I'm acquiring new customers every day, if I'm acquiring more orders every day, my transaction volume growth rates, my gross merchandise value, GMV, or the transaction processing value, TPV, those are metrics that you look at that tells you how your business is going, which can then lead to revenue in the future or profit in the future. So summary, have both leading and lagging indicators that will look at financial, customer, your staff, and innovation. That's the balance scorecard. But just one other thing, there are questions around how do you respond to business changes and regulations. You cannot predict. So the first thing is try and create buffer. Try and create buffer. And your buffer will be, you have financial buffer. So make sure you have financial reserves. Or could be that you have an inventory. So you store some items. So create buffer. Second is try and gain insights into what is likely to come. And so Nike talks about you being a member of an industry association. Join NACIMA, join your industry association. So you get to know what likely regulations may come. And you're also part of lobbying to influence those legislations. And thirdly, is you must be flexible and agile. Agile and flexible to trend and sense what is coming and prepare yourself. Prepare yourself sometimes may mean you shed weight, or sometimes it means you pivot and try to do something. So during the COVID crisis, Nike talks about HR company that moved from helping to recruit, but to helping to separate. Rough and Tumble moved from creating clothes to starting to sew face masks and stuff like that. So that is important. And lastly, my own closing comment, and I think it's a comment by
before you make that comment, there is one interesting area, one by Hanif Salisu. A young lawyer who has a law tech idea, he believes will disrupt the law practice. There is challenge on how to go about setting up his business. How do you advise he goes about this?
It should my honest view, send a mail to SBS, Savannah Business School, and you can set up a private session.
Yeah.
But the second thing is have co-travelers, have 1 or 2 co-journeys. You are a lawyer, have a technology partner who is also a co-founder, have a business partner who can help you to sell. And so if the 3 of you come together, then hopefully, and you come to SBS, you can have the right foundation. So for mentors and for old people, and I can't myself as young, I can't myself as getting to the middle stage now, being above 50, right? So once you're above 50, your risk tolerance level changes. You need to worry about paying school fees, right? Which happens every 3 months. And God help you if your kids are where you need to pay FX. You need to worry about a roof over your head, or you pay your landlord, etc. So that limits your ability to take risk. So have that buffer. What I'm doing now is investing in the young ones who are agile, who are closer to the market, but who don't have the kind of experience that I have. Nick made the mention of you don't have enough experience. And so I lend my experience to the young ones, and I give them my shoulder on which they can climb upon. And that's what I will suggest to old people to do. So instead of trying to set up something new, invest in others. And when you invest in others, you invest in 10 persons. Right, out of the 10 persons, maybe 4 of them will fail, maybe 6 of them will fail, but at least 1 or 2 will succeed. But you will have helped 10 entrepreneurs. You will have invested in them, and hopefully, they can grow wings through you. Thank you.
All right, so thank you, Ni. Yeah, so I agree with you, but there are still a lot of old people still taking that challenge and working with it. You would agree that there are companies like KFC started by old people, and there are examples like that. Yeah, so it's still possible for, if that's the route you want to go as someone who is old, to start something. I know of even friends who said, oh, my father left these businesses for me. What am I going to leave for my own children? I said, grow the one that your father left for you so that your children can continue to run. But it's a very interesting conversation. But I think both ways are right, depending on what you want to do. So let me leave the floor for Nike now to give us her 1 minute closing shorting part.
Okay, thank you very much. And so in rounding up, I want to say two things. First of all, I want to commend everybody who is building a business in Nigeria. It is tough, it is hard, it is difficult, and I celebrate you. We celebrate you. You are creating jobs. If you see Mr. Yusuf's presentation, you are the ones that are carrying Nigeria on your back. And we really do celebrate you despite the operating environment. And in the harsh operating environment, that also means there are a lot of lessons you've learned, a lot of lessons around tenacity, around just focus, diligence, and passion. Apply that knowledge in the way, in helpful ways that can continue to grow your business. Remember that your business cannot grow beyond you. It can't. It can't grow beyond your ability to continue to grow and revision and innovate, or your ability to find and bring people that will help to build your business. So at some point, you also have to restore yourself. And mental health for me is something that over the last 1 year, I've had to increasingly encourage a lot of entrepreneurs to do. It is, people are slumping over, and it's exhausting already going through COVID, and then exhausting already just even in this. And so you need to have time to for your mind to breathe and to take some time off. And so consciously find time, even if it's 1 day every 3 months, that you're not working and you're not doing that. In that restoration, you'll be surprised about even ideas that will come to you and all of that. So you also need to find a time and a space for rest and all of that. And part of that space for rest is also in the community of entrepreneurs. When we do a lot of our programs, we find out that they themselves, it's not even the person that comes to speak. Sometimes their support networks to each other. So, and one of the beauty that I've seen in the last couple of months that Corona also brought is collaboration. So even that person that you think is in your industry and is your competitor, you'll be surprised that there are common challenges you have, common issues you have, and you can talk. It is a wide market that a lot of people can play in. And so I know a lot of times you should watch your back for the competitor. I'm not saying you should not, right? But you should also build that community, and it can be in a safe space. Like we've recommended, find platforms that you can speak, that you can engage in, but you also need to be active in. And we can't overemphasize this. Every policy group that you can belong to in your sector that is very relevant to what you do, go there, speak, understand the policies that are happening in your space. I can't tell you how a lot of times before government announces things that surprises others, because people have been in those platforms, they get an initial wind of it and they're able to sort of quickly review their business model. And that for me is one of your risk mitigation strategies that you can do that. But part of that is also building your own leadership strength. One of the things that Savannah Business School is saying is building people as leaders. We can't make changes in sectors and in Nigeria if we don't have the right people in the right positions also making that. And that's why we also need people like you to be active in the spaces that you can play in, so that you get to the point where you're also making policies and initiatives that also impact your sector overall. And the third thing for me again is really when you're building your business, it's never too small. You're never too early to start building structures and processes into it. It's not only large corporates that do that. So even the way you recruit people, don't recruit people emotionally. Even if it's your cousin or your nephew, make sure that you have the right, you already know what is this person I'm recruiting, what do I want them to do for me? Document it down and make sure that that person you're bringing in has the same mind, the same values, and is able to do what you're doing. Because for a lot of small businesses, apart from money, the challenge is also having the right people to work with. And sorry about that noise. It's hard to let go of a terrible employee than to get one. So don't even let that wrong employee in the first place. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much. That's a very good conclusion from Mrs. Adenike Adeyemi. It's been a beautiful day, and I want to apologize that we fast short. But you can see, you agree with me that every minute we spent here since 10 a.m. has been worth the while. You've taken a lot today. This has become like MBA master class on how to start run and make sure you run your business sustainably, things to make sure that makes you to survive, and things to avoid so that you don't really fail. And I like the angle from which the two erudite speakers with a lot of experience to share with us today. Nii, thank you so much. Nike, thank you so much. So now we have, SBA has a lot of training programs. You can go to the website and take them and look at them and the calendar of events. Another webinar will be coming next month by God's grace. I will let you know what this is going to be all about. There are quite a lot of other questions that we could not attend to. Even people ask me questions about CRC, which I cannot attend to here. But some of the questions, if you have registered, we may come back to you and let you have answer to some of them. We will share the slide. We are going to share the slides of the two distinguished presenters, and we're also going to share the recording as well, so that you can listen to it over and over again. They've said so many things today, and if you are able to take only one or two things from what they have said, you'll have been able to put that your journey, move that your journey to the next level, either to start or to grow or to avoid, failure in your business. On this note, I will yield the floor to Joseph to just give us vote of thanks, and then we can call it a day.
Thank you so much, sir. Wow. It was an interesting session, sir. On behalf of Savannah Business School, I would like to appreciate our distinguished speakers for taking our time to honor this great webinar. We are highly honored by your presence, and we also appreciate the knowledge sharing sessions. Thank you, Mrs. Adenike and Mr. Olani. Thank you so much for the insight shared today. I believe that our audience or our participants, they really enjoyed the session. And to our amiable moderator, Dr. Tunde Popola, we are immensely grateful for having you today. And to you, our participants, thank you so much for your time. I believe that it was a mind-blowing experience for you all. Like Dr. Tunde Popola said, please watch out for our next edition of Business Leaders Arena. Thank you very much. And the link will be sent to us. The materials used today will also be shared with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Okay.